Good evening and a warm welcome to Bistro Buzz. For all our friends who have just joined us for the first time, Bistro Buzz is all about buzzing. What happens is certain ideas pop up here. These ideas could be about the culture, could be about the arts, could be about entertainment, could be about literature, like books, poetry, blogs, essays, or they could even be about lifestyle. And some people even express random reflections. Bistro Bus also hosts a lot of guests on live talk shows. These are very unique people and they have something really exciting to tell us. All the talk shows till now on Bistro Bus have been very engaging, absorbing, and they always leave us food. Bistro Bus also posts a lot of prompts for debates, opinion pieces, videos. Basically, Bistro Buzz is a fun place. Everybody who's joined in are really enjoying themselves. So why don't you also walk in and join the party? All you have to do is look out for Bistro Buzz on my Facebook page, Shutapa Basu 20. And now let's move to the event of the evening, a live chat with Anand Neelkantan. I would like to just say a few words about him first. Anand Neelakantan is an author, columnist, screenwriter, television personality, and motivational speaker. He has authored 5 fiction books in English and 1 in Malayalam. His debut work, Asura, The Tale of the Vanquished, is based on the Ramayana. His next book series was Ajaya, Roll of the Dice, Ajaya, Rise of Kali, which is based on the Mahabharata, told from the Kaurva perspective. His 5th book is Vanara, which is on the legend of Bali, Sugriva, and Tara. Anand Neelakantan has 3 book series based on the movie Bahubali, which is actually a precursor to every part of the movie. Netflix has announced a web series on the first book of this trilogy, The Rise of Shivagami. DR Films and KR Films have won the film adoption rights and will be producing a multilingual film on Vanara. His books have been translated into different languages such as Tamil, Hindi, Malayalam, Telugu, Kannada, Marathi, Bengali, Gujarati, Assamese, and even Indonesian Bahasa. 3 of Anand Neelakantan's books have also been shortlisted for the Crossword Award, and he is also listed as one of the 100 top celebrities in India in 2015 and 2017 by Forbes India. Anand also writes a column for the New Indian Express on current affairs called Acute Angle. Now, this is what the world knows about Anand. What I know and what touches me is his large heart and his dazzling smile. So let's now welcome Anand to the studio.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, Gitika. So we have Anand with us, and let's go into the chat because I'm also very eager to ask him all the questions that I want. So Anand, you were born in a temple town. That is the seat of the Cochin royal family, isn't it? And from your childhood, you've been influenced by the stories that were told around these temples. How did your interest lead you to overturn established mythological perceptions? Tell us your journey. How did you become an author who wrote about anti-heroes and has such a large readership?
First thing, I have told it in many interviews, there is nothing called anti-heroes in our Puranas. It's a very Western concept, hero and anti-hero, good versus bad. As you rightly said, I was born in Tripunithura, that is in the outskirts of Cochin, now part of the city. Uh, there are lots of temples, but one thing what is special about Kerala is all throughout the South India, but specifically to Kerala is that it's a very confident way of telling Puranas because these were never under any, except for the British rule, they were never under invaded or anything like that. So the questioning tradition is a part of the storytelling tradition in the
Telling the
South.
story.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So not only in Malayalam, in Tamil also, in Telugu also, Kannada also, there have been a lot of literature and art forms which never used to take the straight path. They have all in Telugu, even N.T. Ramarao had played lots of role from the various other characters in Purana, not
Yes.
exactly the god. He has played
Okay.
that also, but otherwise also there have been poetry in Malayalam. There have been dramas. Then there have been Kathakali also has a lot of subaltern take. So it's nothing new. What I had done, the only thing new which I did was to write it in English. Otherwise,
Exactly.
most of the things which I am bringing it's a part of a long tradition of storytellers. Uh,
Beautiful. But I think your writing in English has exposed it to the world. That's what has happened. That's why, that's why this question comes up. But I think in Kerala, nobody would be questioning you as to why are you writing about the anti-heroes.
See, it is not just in Kerala. Even in Hindi,
Yes.
long back, I think I came to know later only after I had written Asura. But Acharya, then I read it. I have a book here. The Acharya Chatursen had written Vayam Rakshamaha. Bengali,
Mhm.
100 years back, Michael Masudan Datta had written 120 years back, the
Yes.
Meghadat Bhattacharya.
Yes. 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 Correct.
And if you see the Odia Sarala Mahabharata, that itself has somewhat subaltern take in it, whatever
Mm.
translation I have read, in the sense that he has taken out Bhagavad Gita. Hardly one or
Yes.
two line has been mentioned. And ironically, the same thing in the 15th century Malayalam Mahabharata also doesn't have Bhagavad Gita. So
Okay.
there are lots of these kind of subaltern takes always in India, because India had until recently celebrated the rational tradition, questioning tradition. Even bhakti was rational in the sense that there was no acceptance without questioning. You had to use your rationality for anything and everything. All of our religious texts are in the form of, not in the form of commandments, but rather in the form of debate, whether it is Upanishads, whether it is Gita. So I was just continuing the tradition, that's all. Why it looks something unique is because right from the 1990s, the television Ramayanas and Mahabharatas,
Yes.
beautiful though they were, had thrust one single version of it. Whereas the folk tradition and the classical tradition of many Indian classical languages, ancient languages,
You
classical
have to
languages,
wear
including Sanskrit
various.
and
Yeah.
Tamil and Malayalam and Kannada or Telugu, all the classical languages of India had this subaltern tradition always. I was just following that.
We have many guests who have joined us. Dipankar is there. Hi, Dipankar, Madhya, and hi, Madhya. So she says, enriched culture here. Wonderful, yes. So my next question to you is, you have always espoused the vanquished. You said that, it's nothing new, but you have been doing that. Like in the Ramayana, like the Ramayana, you said that they should be an Asurayana, right? That is what you have said. In your first book, Asura, you have depicted Ravana's 10 heads as symbolizing the baser human emotions. And Ravana does not believe that he should subdue them like Ram does. He is proud of being the complete man. Now, tell me, in this book, you have shown Ravana rebelling because he was oppressed by the caste system prevalent there. How did you get this conception? I mean, why was it caste system?
Ravana, as such, I am not showing it as the caste system. I had used a character called Bhadra to do that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Not exactly Ravana. Ravana is somebody who uses it as a political tool. If you
Okay,
see
okay.
in Asura, it is
Hmm.
not black and white. Ravana, when Ravana speaks, he speaks very big, noble things, but he doesn't act like that. He talks like any typical politician. So, what I did using Bhadra was to
Hmm.
expose this hypocrisy of anyone on power, and the life of Bhadra doesn't change. Whether Ram
Okay.
rules or Ravan rules, the life of common man doesn't change.
Doesn't change.
So, what
Right.
Ravan speaks and what
Hmm.
Ravan does, there is a gap.
Hmm. So
So,
basically,
I
you
have
wanted to expose that
no, my
though
all
he
my books are political commentary and social commentary.
I'm going to come to that. Yes, I also feel it. That's why I'm going to come to that. Now, for your next book, you went to whatever is considered the anti-hero of Mahabharata, which is Duryodhana, and you have retold the entire Mahabharata and calling it Duryodhana's Mahabharata series. That's what you've said. Now, in your book Ajaya, you show that the Kaurava prince, when he was growing up, he aspires to be a good king. He wants to help the poor and the downtrodden in his kingdom, but he is actually lured into a plot that led to his defeat and death. So, do you believe that Duryodhana was a victim rather than a perpetrator of the Mahabharata debacle?
The greatness of Mahabharata is everyone is a victim. Is there anyone who is not a victim? Only thing is that
Only
that
Krishna.
time I chose Krishna also
I
is
think
a victim.
Krishna is also a victim.
Ultimately,
Okay.
what happens is you cannot call him victim, but he also has to face the curse of Gandhari. His karma bala, he pays for what he does.
Yes.
So that is an
Yes.
overall message of it. The greatness of
Mhm.
Mahabharata is you can take any character from Mahabharata and make him into a hero. So this I wanted to tell it from Duryodhana's point of view, so that it opens up another vista of Mahabharata, because I was seeing everything is being told in the same way
From the
again and
Ram. Yes.
again. Whereas our tradition had this, like as I said, mentioned in many of the right from Urubanga, which I have seen being played in the Sanskrit form itself in our temple town.
Okay.
Urubanga, 2200 years back, approximately, Basa wrote from Duryodhana's side, the climax of this thing. He wrote Karnabhara. He even wrote
Okay.
Pancharatra. Basa wrote Pancharatra, where there is no war. They sit across the table and have a conversation and have a peace talk and refuse to have a war. So this kind of work India have been doing many times. What we are why we are getting confused about this tradition is that we lost it somewhere. We started telling stories like the West. Here it was always
Mhm.
romantic. That is why I was telling, in the temple towns, in Kathakali, like around 80 years back, this play came where Karna Shabadam comes, okay, which I had seen. Mali had written it. Karna Shabadam come, the Kathakali play. I think if somebody is interested, in YouTube it is there with subtitles. If you want to see
Okay.
the classical art, so you need some patience to watch it, but it's beautiful. Learn how to watch it. In that, the plot itself is Duryodhan says, Dushasan hears, I not use that in the book, okay, but I am telling from where I am coming from. Dushasan overhears Karna giving promise to Kunti
Okay.
that I will kill only Arjun and I will spare all your other sons. You will have 5 sons. The famous oath of Karna. Dushasan comes and tells Duryodhan, this fellow is a cheat. But we have given him everything. So there, he's opening up. The playwright is opening up a different angle. He's telling he's a cheat. You give me orders and allow me to kill him in sleep. Okay, because you gave him everything. His dharma is to protect you. Yet he is now conspiring with the enemy. But Duryodhana, when Karna comes, Duryodhana says, "I understand now that you know who is your blood brothers. I understand the dharma is not to fight your blood brothers. For me, my
Right.
dharma is that I believe I am the king. I am the son of. I am the firstborn of the firstborn.
Firstborn. Yeah.
Pandu was just a what do you call a substitute, since my father was blind, but I am not blind. So all right, the kingdom belongs to me. That's why I'm fighting. Not that I am aspiring for the kingdom. But I don't want you to come into this. I don't want you to fight your brothers. You are free to go. Whatever I
Okay.
given, I didn't do it so that you are. I will get something out of you. When I made you the Angaraj, I didn't know even that you can shoot arrows. Because actually, if you see in Mahabharata, even though television has put it differently, in Mahabharata, the moment Karna comes, they object. They ask, "What is your caste? What is your jati?"
Yes.
That is when Duryodhan stands up and asks, "Will you ask the streams from the
Hmm.
mountains, from where is the origin? Will
Where
you
they
ask the
come
rivers, where is the origin? Will you ask the
from?
wind, where is its origin? For Veer, for various, there is no origin. It is through their karma they have to prove." He gives that speech. So he reminds Karna that I didn't know who you are. I just stood up because I saw a man being oppressed. So now also I understand. I don't want you to force you into this. You can go. You are free to go. And then Karna breaks down and he says that my life is for you. I will die for you. And that is how the play ends. So this is nothing unique. What I had is a part of culture. Even the 17th century play in Ottendullal, what Kunjan Nambiar, who is called perhaps some people I don't like that they call him the Shakespeare of India, but it's idiotic to call somebody Shakespeare of India because what these people have done is much beyond that. The thing is, there is no exposure. Indians read French literature, German literature, but Indians don't.
They don't read Indian. They don't read our
Other
own
Indian
literature.
classical language literatures which have a tradition of 2,500 years and has done everything what is imaginable. So Kunjan Nambiar in Kalyana Savandigam uses Hanuman to make fun of Pandavas. So many things what I have written in Ajaya, I was inspired by that. Hanuman, when Bhima tries to lift Kalyana Saugandhikam, you might be aware perhaps, Draupadi asks Bhima to get the flower called Kalyana Saugandhikam. A wind carries it. So Bhima, actually what Draupadi does is, Draupadi wants to be with Arjun, but the next turn is of Bhima. So Draupadi sends Bhima on a fool's errand. He says, bring the Kalyana Saugandhikam. So laid it is. So Bhima, like the innocent fool who is the one who most loved Draupadi, one-sided love, he goes for seeing it, and then he finds Hanuman lying. He finds an old monkey lying on the path.
Yes.
So
yes.
in
Yes.
Indian tradition, old people or young small babies, he won't cross. He says the monkey to move. Monkey says, I cannot move. I am old. You please lift me up and move. So Bhima tries to lift him up, but he's not even able to lift the what you call his tail, and he gets tied up in the tail. And then Hanuman starts teasing him. He says, "You said you are a great warrior. What were you doing when they were stripping Draupadi? Was it dharma? You accused Duryodhana of adharma, but then what kind of people you are? And what is the use of your hulky body? You better go and stand as a pillar. You are good for only that. You stand as a pillar and just hold the roof. You're good for that." So it is subaltern, or it is like on your face, and this was played in the temple and it's told so humorously and people used to laugh. So, and like that you find so many tales, and all my literature, including the one Bahubali, which has got nothing to do with Puranas, but I've drawn a lot from the folk tales and the classical storytelling traditions of India. So that is why
Also, I think there is a temple which has been dedicated to Duryodhana. You found a temple which was dedicated to Duryodhana, I think, isn't it?
It is not I found a temple. I went there. That temple has been existing for you don't at least 1,000 years. The structure is old, but the temple might be older than that. One good thing is many of the temples in the south are still standing because of historical reasons. They are still standing there. So majestic, huge, massive temples are there. Temples that spread 50 acres, 100 acres, huge temple complexes are there in most villages where all these kind of art forms are preserved and they get played. This particular temple, if somebody is interested, they can just go to the YouTube and type Malanada temple, and you can see the festival happening there.
Okay.
Every year, now Corona times, they may not be having the festival, but even last year and the year before that, for thousands of years, there almost 5 to 8 lakh people come every year, and they have a Ratha Yatra kind of festival where Duryodhana is the main deity, and the other deities are, there is no Murti of Duryodhana, it is a Sankalpa Murti. Like, but there is a platform where Duryodhana had supposed to have stood. And that also has a very subaltern thing. He came and he talked, he did, I have written it in my book about that story, the legend of that temple. Then it has Ubamurtis, or the sub deities like Shakuni, Ashwatthama, Karna, and all. They also have their own temples in the vicinity. So I think even in Himachal, when I told this somewhere, somebody told in Himachal also there is a temple like that, and various other parts of the country it is there. So this has been our tradition. We should not reduce it to simple Ram versus Ravan, Kaurava versus Pandava, because we are losing something which This is not what our poets did. This is not what our playwrights did for thousands of years. So we are slowly becoming like some medieval Europe in the dark ages, which is what I am scared of. So why I try to write it in English, because I'm more comfortable writing in Malayalam. I published in Malayalam. English I learned very late. I'm not very good at. It's not that anybody spoke English at my home or in the village or anywhere. They knew English, workable English, but not something like that you write huge books like this. So that I acquired with lots of difficulty after I had first English book I read was at the age of 16.
Okay.
And all of my, of course, I would have read the school books, whatever small books in the school they prescribe with great difficulty, because even English was taught in Malayalam. Like any Indian school, it will be taught in the native language. Even so, the first book I remember is Freedom at Midnight, which I had an English translation, I mean Malayalam translation and English translation side by side, and that is how I started reading books. When I wanted to write, initially I started in Malayalam, but I thought these stories have to be told in a much bigger scale, and the constraint of or the lack of my language skill should not stand on way of it. So that is why I decided that I had to improve my English, I had to write my English. So it took a lot of time for me. I am a very latecomer. In the sense that my first book was published 8 years ago, when I was almost 39, 38. 8 years
Anand,
ago.
no, none of your books show that. So don't, I mean, your English is very good. It's impeccable. Nobody would believe what you're saying. No one is going to believe that.
It is, it may be perhaps the English. See, when you learn something, no, maybe you are scared, so you try to give the best of yourself. So
So
that
possibly
way, I
that's
don't
why
write
your books are so
casually.
good.
I don't write
That's why your books
casually.
are
I take a lot of effort for each word by word. And one more thing, what I do is I do a anti Shashi Tharoor thing or de Shashi Tharoor thing. Kasturi Sen is a great writer, but what I do is see, he is a great scholar, and he had the fortune of being in a family of very elite and this thing, and he write beautifully. But for me, I am writing for people like me who are not that comfortable with English. So my striving has always been to write elegantly in simple prose. Whether I achieve that or not, that's separate. But every writer, they will have a what do you call an ambition or an aim. No, so my ambition is write it elegant, write it simple, write it poetic, but write it simple. So I
And
have
I
got
think
my
that is,
own.
I think you've succeeded in that because your books are like, very easily we can read it, and yet there is so much in it,
So
so
that's
much depth in it.
there's a lot of effort going into that, because I read and reread and edit it a lot of time, and take out all the words which a person like me who is 16 years, who has just started to read, if they are not able to understand it, then I will take it out. So I'm very conscious of taking out difficult words and substituting with words which Indians are familiar with, because I am not writing to for foreigners. I am writing for my people, and I am telling our stories.
I
And
think
I
that is
believe
something.
even when we did Bahubali, this is what we
Mhm.
believe. We tell it in our way. We don't try to imitate it to a Western audience. We will tell it song and dance. That's how we tell stories. We tell it, and we will give the names given should be rooted in the soil. So you have names like Katappa. In my book, you have names like Patraya. You have names like Ali, Achi Nagama. These are not even pan-Indian names. It's rooted in the soil, and that's what we believe. It I believe also just be rooted in the soil, because when an Englishman writes or an American writes, they are not going to put names so that Indians or Japanese or Chinese can spell it and easier for them to spell. So I don't shy away from putting names if the story warrants, like Drishtadyum or Dhritarashtra. It may be difficult for Indians who are not familiar with Sanskrit to pronounce, but I don't mind. Those things I put tough words, but not tough words in English. Because English is an alien language for us. It's just a medium of communication, nothing more than that.
I think what you've said is like, I mean, something that all authors, all writers should note and keep in mind, that you should write about characters rooted in the soil. I love what you said, really. It was a beautiful statement you've made. I'll just welcome a lot of other guests who've come in: Anuradha, Sripanna, Anupama, Harshali. Harshali has a question. So, shall we just see what she says? She says, Anand, any woman characters that interest you enough to write about?
I have written, no, I have written most of the recent books are women characters. Like I have got 3 short stories in Kindle. They are coming as printed books also because Kindle had signed up with me, so I had written that. They talk about one is Shurpanaka, one is Shanta. Shanta
Yeah,
is the elder daughter of Dasharath, the elder sister of Ram.
Ram.
Without
Yes, yes.
Shanta, there is no Ram. Many people might not be familiar with her. So I had
Mhm.
told her story, and then I had written about Sita. Then in the television, what I did was totally women centric. Siya Ke Ram, I had written the first of 120 episodes. I had placed that. Then Rise of Shivagami is totally women centric. Most women
Absolutely. I
characters
was
are
just
there.
about to say, Rise of
All
Shivagami
the
is,
three,
yes.
all
Yes,
the
yes.
3 books, and Vanara, the hero is Tara in that. If you really see, and not Bali or Sugriv in that.
Absolutely. I was just about to say that in Vanara, it is Tara who is the heroine, and these two, I mean, that is I think the oldest
Triangle, love
first love
triangle.
triangle in the world. Yeah. So how did you conceive that? I mean, I know that there's a story, but then you've shown it so beautifully, that there's Tara and there are the two, Sugriva and Bali who are fighting over her actually.
I will consider myself as a bouquet maker. I am taking. There are so many. You, I don't know. But there are so many stories in India, and so many great storytellers. I am fortunate that not many have explored them. People, I do read since because of my growing up in a rooted culture where this. I was fortunate enough, and I'm not giving anything new. I'm just presenting it in a new way. So whatever I told, I don't make up. Usually in my stories, I may create 1 or 2 characters to give the voice. But
Hmm.
even a character like Bhadra, which I created,
Hmm.
actually Ravan's Sarathi or the charioteer's name was
Yes.
Bhadra,
Yes. Yes.
and
Yes.
the washerman who slanders Sita is Bhadra. So I took that name and then I imagined it. None of my books, including Bahubali, are totally made up. I use, especially when I have written Asura, Ajaya, and the short stories and Vanara, what I have done is I have utilized the various folk tales. I have a huge collection of folk tales, and what I have as book, I have 10 times more than that in recordings, which I
Oh.
have gone traveled around and recorded. So what I am doing is I am using all these stories. I owe it a lot to the folk storytellers of India and the artists who keep these traditions alive. Just imagine this: you require 15 years to 18 years of training for becoming a Kathakali artist. What is that they are gaining out of it? A few will become successful, but how many? Because a story written in 1700s, Nala Charitam, that is Nala and Damayanti story, it goes
Mhm.
for 4 days with a time of 5 to 6 hours every day. 4 hours, but sometimes it stretches to 5 to 6 hours. And they are just telling one story. This belongs to another era, another classical time,
Right.
another era where there was a time, at least an elite class. I'm not forgetting that many would have been suffering. As if you ask me, these are the best times on an average for people because of what luxuries we are enjoying now. Not even Akbar or Ashoka or Rajaraja Chola or any emperor would have enjoyed. But they had time, and they had time for the elegance. What I am doing, I am plucking it from there, these flowers from there, packaging it, putting my thoughts into that, and presenting it in a language that might be palatable to the this generation. So this is being done in a deliberate fashion. Because just translating it, there are lots of scholars who have beautifully translated it, which is needed also. But that cannot be read easily by many people in this era. So I don't
Right.
make up stories in the sense I don't deviate. Even as Ajaya, when I am telling from the subaltern perspective, I'm not deviating and making up things. Whatever incidents I have mentioned in that, it is there in one Mahabharata or other.
Other. Okay. Okay.
There are around
No.
1100 Mahabharatas. And if you take
Oh
it as partial tales, there will be more than a lakh.
my God.
Not that I have read everything, but I have encountered thousands of versions with lots of difference, not subtle difference, lots of differences. Same with Ramayana. We have Ramayana where Hanuman has multiple wives. What could be more
Okay.
shocking than that?
Anand, I mean, you're very unassuming, but the research that you must have done to create this world that you have is mind-boggling actually. And in fact, Rajamouli, who is the director of Bahubali, he has said this that I have brought Sivagami to life on screen, but in the Rise of Sivagami, the book, Anand Neelakantan has given her wings, which is very true. And not just Sivagami, the characters that you've brought, each one of those characters represents a certain human trait that has woven the intrigue and diversity into the story. And I mean, were these characters also from from people whom you have spoken to or you have read about? Were they from there, or were they from your mind, your creations?
It's an interesting question. See, I follow. It might be. I don't know whether how people will take it. There are lots of books on writing. Okay, most of
Right.
them come from the Aristotle's Poetics. I'm slightly getting
Hmm.
technical here, but
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
an accomplished writer yourself, you might be familiar with that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Lot of writers, and it is beautiful. What
Hmm.
all the Hollywood films are told in a particular way.
Hmm. Hmm.
They have a structure
Hmm.
on which they play around.
Yeah.
This is a
Yeah.
beautiful way of storytelling. It is successful in it, but
Hmm.
there is something. There are other three or four forms of storytelling in the world. Like
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Japanese way, Chinese way is
Hmm.
there,
Hmm. Hmm.
and
Hmm.
Southeast Asian way is there. But one of the deep way is the Indian way of storytelling.
Hmm.
This is based on a few books like Natya Shastra, Natya Darpana, Kavya
Yes.
Darpana. Few of the books
Hmm.
are
Hmm.
there.
Hmm.
So, if you follow it exactly, you might not be able to bring it what people want. But what I believe is, I believe in the theory of rasa. Because again, my tradition comes from the dance drama, my storytelling comes from the dance drama like Kathakali or Bharatanatyam or Mohiniyattam, the various dance forms. What they do, they use one character, he will have all characteristics, but they use one character to emphasize the rasa,
Okay.
emphasize the characteristics. He will have that guna, like that particular guna more,
Right.
and you play around with that. So one of the major differences in storytelling here is that there is no three-act structure, four-act structure, or anything. If you take Bahubali book, which I have written, it's around 1,300 pages. This is the book. I don't want to reveal the cover, though. I'm just waving it, and
No, no, I have the cover as well. I have the book as well.
no. This is the new one which is coming
Oh, this is
on
the new one, the
25th.
last one. Okay,
The
okay,
last
okay,
one. So it's around
okay.
1,300 pages and
Mm-hmm.
42
Fine.
characters. I cannot play the way Aristotle says with three-act structure and all. It becomes very difficult. These
Hmm.
stories, what Aristotle says, works for smaller stories. Like a 2 hour film, it works. But I am conscious that I have to write it like an epic. So I
Right.
go the Mahabharata way or the Indian way. Here, what we do, you create a character, you create a Ravan, character like Ravan. He has all the qualities, but one thing is emphasized.
It's prominent. Mm-hmm.
Ram
Dominant.
has all the qualities, one thing is emphasized.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you do here, you throw, there is no plot. You throw, it is like life. The Indian storytelling is very resonant with life. So you're not creating drama. There is a character who doesn't change. There is no arc. Like most of us, they don't change. Whereas if you take the Western film, they have a character arc.
They have an
Character
arc.
starts as
Yes.
something, They have to learn something and they end it up.
Yes. Yes.
Here, what we do, they have a Yudhishthira has the same character. Okay, but they throw something in between, like how life throws a spin. So he is forced to say a lie to kill Drona. It's a nuances of storytelling. Suddenly, whatever he has been preparing is thrown. That is where the intrigue works. Ram follows the Maryada. Okay, and suddenly he has to face Bali and kill him. He has to hide behind a tree. Duryodhan has a Rajoguna. He dominates people, but suddenly Karna comes, you get another character. This makes the character rounded. So you play around like that, like a symphony. You play around with it. This is what I do. This is what I do. Since I cannot write the other way, like a British film, so my books will have a distinct flavor. Someone will like it, some may not like it, because people now, after seeing films, they get used to like pacey. My books are pacey, but they are also what you call somewhat meditative. Also, you read it second time, because
Find something new.
you find something new. Because you hide a lot of things, like peeling off an onion, you have to hide a lot of things. So a lot of hard work goes to it. So Asura, you read it in one sitting. Many people say they say do it in one sitting. People come and tell me, Ajaya, the 1,000-page book, people say I finished in 8 days, 10 days. I said, very good. Now start it and finish it in 6 months.
Right. So even in Chaturanga, I think even in Chaturanga, you have also shown some kind of parallel with the real world, because the real world is like that. You might be going on a straight path, and then something comes and you have to deviate. So I think in Chaturanga you have shown a lot of that parallels with the real world that is happening.
But that is how Indians have always told the story. That is why it resonates with life.
Right.
So that is why there are no happy endings in Indian stories, if you really see. We stop it where it is convenient and say it is an happy ending. Is Ramayana happy ending? It is not.
No.
It is a lifelike ending.
Absolutely.
Happy ending. It's a lifelike ending.
You've just shown us your final, one flash of that final book, which is like more than 1,000 pages. What do you feel? It's going to be released soon. So what do you feel now that you've completed the mega series? What is the feeling that you have?
Actually, once I write it, then it is out of my mind, because I am doing a lot of projects. So this was written 3 months back. So it has totally gone out of my mind. It's not that I am boasting or anything. Otherwise, I'll not be. It's a survival tactics for me. You can start worrying whether people will accept it or not. So far, all my books have been accepted. But I continue to write in my mother tongue. I write poetry. Hardly anyone reads, and I get paid 50 rupees, 100 rupees. It doesn't matter.
Okay, so, in Malayalam, is it?
And I write in Malayalam. I write in Malayalam stories in magazines which has what you call 2000 circulation of 2000. Whereas Asura sells 1 million copies. Both of it doesn't matter because this is over. So I just keep on writing. It's not like I am bragging about it. It's a survival tactics for me. So as of now, after this, I had finished a Ramayana series for Audible, which will be coming soon. It's in the editing stage.
Okay.
That is around whatever research I had done. I have put together to stitch a Ramayana of 300, more than 300 Ramayana. So I am narrating an incident and telling this is the lesson from it. But in Bhil Ramayana, it is like that. In the Nilgiri Adivasi Ramayana, it is like that. This is told.
That will be really, really interesting, because you are showing the parallels that that a different parallel that has happened to the same the Ramayana that we know. That will be extremely interesting.
It's not something which what a teenager will pick up for a love story and read it fast and feel happy about it. This is something for a connoisseur who likes to know about it.
Absolutely.
Audible liked it. I don't know how many people will hear it. Maybe 2 people will hear it. Maybe 20 lakh people will hear it. But I have done that. I finished that. I have moved to the next project. So one film also I'm working on based on mythology. The announcement will come soon. Apart from Vanara, I have TV shows which I have 2 TV shows I already did after this, and I'm working on. I finished another children's book. So I write quite fast and come back and edit and come back and edit. So it is like all this work what you are seeing, they are 3-year work, they are 1 month work also. I finished the first draft in a month, whether it is a 1,000-page book or a 500-page book or a
Love. I
200.
mean, that's really fast. First draft in 1 month is
Because
fast.
it will be really trash. Whatever comes to my mind is a stream of consciousness writing. So it might, and they blot. So I touch around 10,000 words a day, 15,000 words a day, and
My God.
2.5 lakh, 3 lakh words I write and cut it down and make it down to 60,000.
Oof.
So that I
It's
don't think
like,
it's a great process or
I
anything
can't
like
even
that.
imagine.
No, if somebody knows the craft well, they will know what word to pick. For me, I had to just vomit it out and then see what
And you
comes.
started it. Mhm.
Start. I just
You've
try.
said you have written a second children's fiction now, but you the first one is like the at least what I saw of it was beautiful, very nice, beautiful book. Tell me one thing. You have said that it is very tough to write for children. So, what are the tough parts and how did you manage them?
You have to become a child to write it.
Okay.
So what I did was, I have
So,
some
did you
ninja
ask your
rule.
children? Did you take your children into,
My
as
children
an
are
audience?
past this age. Daughter is 17 and son is 14. And this
Mhm.
is for 8 to 12 actually. So
Right.
what I did, I got my neighbors' kids, my friends' kids. So I made them read it and I took the feedback and I rewrote it. See, that is how I believe in taking feedback. It's not that I write, but once I write it, it's published, then I don't look back. But before
Mhm.
publishing, I do a lot of revision and I take everyone's feedback. Why? Again, as I say, hey, it might be boring to tell that, but my storytelling comes from the theater and folk telling. How they
Right.
do, they change the stories
Mm.
depending on how the audience react. One sad thing which has happened now, we have adapted uh, audience in the dark, even in theater now.
Mm. 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 You
Audience
can't
in the
see them.
dark, you
Yeah, you
can't
can't
see
really
them.
see them. Yeah, so you're not emoting to them. You're not
You
emoting
are
to
not
them. That's
emoting to them. So,
correct.
but if you release in the traditional theater, audience also the person can see and they subtly change. They change as per how it is coming. So that is how the art is made. That's what I believe in. So I take feedback a lot and do it. But once it is done,
Beautiful.
it is done. Again from theater, because once your play is over, you cannot go back and change it. You can change only the next book. A lot of mistakes will
Absolutely.
be there. You learn from the mistake. So I don't go back and read my books. I'll feel sad.
No, no, no. You won't. Don't worry. You won't. I'm sure. One thing. You have said something very interesting. I love history. It's full of lies. Now, you base the storytelling in your books, on a unique approach. You call it proto-history. Can you explain what you mean by proto-history?
See, I believe all the tales,
Hmm.
all the epics have some base in history.
Okay.
It was the way in which history was recorded in India. And it is a very beautiful way because you don't remember who won in the Battle of Plassey, most of us, but we know who won in the Battle of Kurukshetra or who won between Ram and Ravan. So it's a way
Absolutely.
of
Yeah.
telling story.
Hmm.
And we are used to hyperbole. It's okay. Some
Hmm.
hyperbole will be there. So I am not a one. I like the aesthetics, poetry, philosophy, and the beauty of Ramayana or Mahabharata. But I am not a one who subscribes to the thought that the people who were roaming around in horse-driven carts were hurling atom bombs at each other. That goes against my rationality, and that goes against the way I have been taught to think as per our tradition. So, what could have happened? A lot of poetic imagination would have come into that. So, in my writing, when I am writing for books, when I am writing for screen, I use lots of fantasy because that is where you can use a lot of fantasy,
Hmm.
larger than life. But when I am writing the books, what I do is I strip Ramayana or Mahabharata out of all these fantasies and tell it like a historical thing. So there are no atomic gods hurling atomic nuclear weapons on them. So every weapon which is used in, I tried to give, it might be foolish, I tried to give a scientific explanation to that. Nagastra is a weapon with poison. It's like that I have added it. So
Hmm.
every weapon I have created something how it can be done. uh, then it becomes like a historical book. So the war, it's a war between various clans and tribes, and then I try to resonate with the modern day politics.
Yes, that is what I was saying, that parallels you draw with the real world as well.
Because a story, why Ramayana and Mahabharata is still relevant, because you can find all the characters even now among us if you look closely. A story that
Absolutely.
doesn't talk to any period, as if it is a story which is afresh, will die away. So why do we write? We write for immortality, right? Whether we achieve it or not, it is separate. But you write for immortality. So when you write for immortality, you have to be. It has to resonate with the contemporary things of any period. Even after 500 years, it has to resonate.
It
And
has to be universal. Mhm.
it has to be. It need not be universal. It has to resonate. Universal is like universality is difficult to achieve because culture to culture it may change. But what doesn't change is a human nature. Human nature doesn't change. The humans need for recognition, humans need for greed, humans avarice, greed, anger, the need for honor, respect, nothing changes. And the humans need to dominate others, need the drive to be important, that doesn't change. So you play around with that, then the stories will fall by itself in place, whether you write Asura, whether you write Bahubali, or whether you write children's book. So
Your
these,
story. So, I mean, so many of your books have been taken up by Netflix and the film industry because they are so visual. I mean, how do you manage to write so visual? I mean, do you, because you write to the screen, do you also imagine your book like a film? How do you do it?
it was a conscious decision. It was a conscious decision in the sense, uh, one reason why many people, have you seen book reviews? As a reader, first of all, we will be all book reviews talk about beautiful language,
Yeah.
most of them, because there is this. When I thought logically, I thought this is a residue of a different era, because most of the storytelling was done through poetry, right?
Yes.
In poetry, it is your ears that is important. It has to resonate, it has to have harmony, the words have to flow. So if you hear Kalidasa's poetry, if you hear Shankaracharya's, you hear Milton, it resonates any language.
Yeah. The rhythm and the music is there.
Rhythm, music, that. So when people started writing stories, they imitated that. So beautiful language. So many of the people who win awards,
Mm.
including Booker and other things, they are good.
Mm.
Most of them don't have any plot, if you ask me. They write in
It's just.
beautiful language. They have many thought. I don't deny
Mm.
that. There is
Mm. Mm.
hardly any plot there because they concentrate on telling beautiful story, telling it in a very beautiful language. What I found was we are having 100 years of cinema. What is the dominant? We are not living in the era of Dickens. We are not living in the era of Kalidasa. We are living in the era of Spielberg or Rajamouli or Maniratnam or Sanjay Leela
True.
Bhansali or
Mm. Mm.
we are living in the era of storytellers who tell it visually. So if my story has to resonate, I have to learn visual storytelling. So again, it was a conscious decision to visualize first and then write it. Second, I didn't know the language. I cannot write flowery, beautiful, fantastic English because it is not my mother tongue. I may write it beautifully in Malayalam because that's what I learned. I can write a bit of Sanskrit. I can, since my father is from Kerala, mother is from Tamil Nadu, I can not write, but I can understand Tamil, I can understand Kannada, Telugu, but I cannot write English as good as that. I can, of course, read Hindi also, but I cannot write English as good as that, at least when I started. So that was I thought one, it should be universal in the sense it should be connecting to everyone. It should resonate with all human beings. It should be contemporary. Second thing was that it has to be not poetic. If it becomes poetry, it is well and good. I will not strive to bring poetry into that. What I will create is I will try to create a visual poetry because the people are used to visual form of storytelling. you have to create a film in front of the reader. That's what I try
I
to do.
think, yeah, I think one of the reasons why you were also visualizing is because of your skill as a cartoonist. Am I right? I think
Yeah,
that is one of the reasons also. You were
that,
constantly, the picture was in front of your eyes because you're an artist, isn't it? You are an artist. And when we were
I
at the
draw.
Times Business,
I scribble first when I plot. I draw it, like,
oh,
what you call, and then I write it. So first I see
so
it as a film in my mind, and then I write it. So it's not the words
so
which are helping me; it is the story which is helping me. So my story should have a plot. My story should have a story. Language is secondary. So one good advantage what I got because of that is that my books became language neutral. So it did well in all languages,
right. That's why so many translations of yours, so in so many languages,
including
your books are
Indonesian, so many languages, because it became language neutral. And
right.
another good thing which I had not envisaged, I all the directors loved my books. So I'm working with almost all the big
I'm sure.
directors in the country.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm
Everyone,
sure.
I don't have, I moved to Mumbai 6 years back when people started
Hmm.
calling me to write it.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I was living in a small town. So it is not that I don't have the soap story or the heroic story of many people who come to Mumbai, struggle, sleep on the footpath. It didn't happen to me. I was called to Mumbai because many people happened to read my book. I was lucky that way. And they found that there is a film hiding inside that. And like that, I started getting assignments. So now I have written more screenplays than books because
I
one
wanted
more.
to ask, yeah. So I wanted to ask you. I mean, you write books and you also write screenplays. What is the difference between writing for these two different genres? Is there any difference, firstly?
Lots of difference. Hell lot of
Okay.
difference.
All right.
Forgive me, guys. Screenplay is a guide. It's not the final product. What you are giving is you are giving a guidance to the director to build it upon. It is like an architect's schematic drawing. It is
Okay.
not the thing.
Okay.
Then
Okay.
100 people work on that. The actor has to work, the director has to work, the editor has to work, the background musician has to work. So many people work on that, and then the final product comes. So screenplay essentially is a technical thing. All writers cannot be a screenplay writers. All screenplay writers can be writers, provided they have the patience to sit and write. The screenplay is easy also, tough also. Easy in the sense, a typical screenplay for a film is around 120 pages or 110 pages, and there will have lots of white space in it. So hardly it will be around 30,000 words, and you have a screenplay. But it has to be precise. Everything is built by the. You are just giving the visual, so it helps me because I first see it as a screenplay and then I translate that.
So
Whereas
so
book,
you do it exactly like that. Even your books are that. You make the screenplay and then you sort of write.
I sort of write, so it is easier for me to do the screenplay. But what helps me when I write screenplay is because since I am a novelist, also I am easy to. The advantage of novels or short stories is that you can go into the mind of the character and tell it, which you cannot do it in screenplay unless you
Absolutely.
give a voiceover or something like that. It's very boring.
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
So screenplay, when you write it, you need another character to bounce it off what you are thinking and all, and that makes it technical and complicated. But when I do as a novel, since I go into the character's mind, when I write screenplay, I already do the character. I become the character at least a week before I start imagining their dialogues and all that. So it is there is something in a term in Kathakali and all what they call pagarnatam. That is, you become the character. You start behaving like the character. So when I am planning it, I become like that, and then the dialogues come by itself. I don't know. I don't know how to explain the writing process. I'm blabbering. I think.
I think it's all there in your head and it's not so easy to explain. I can understand. I can understand. Now that your Bahubali series is complete, and I'm sure many other books are queued up, as you said, and screenplays also. But other than writing, what else is there in your plans for the future? Is there something else? You wear so many hats.
I have plans in the sense I want to take this. It is all related to writing, but I would love to direct a film because I think that is the toughest. The directors are the greatest storytellers and one of the toughest jobs in the world.
Oh,
Uh,
we'll wait for that.
if somebody trusts me, I would love to write and direct my own films. Then another thing which I want to do is take Indian stories global. I don't know whether I believe in dreaming big. What Disney did to America, I want to do it to India. Maybe I will
Wow.
do, or I may inspire someone else to do who has more capable than me to do it. But that is what I aspire for because our stories need to be told for almost 3000, almost 3000, 4000 years. We were the storytellers of the world. We gave the Katha Sarit Saga from which Arabian Nights sprang. We gave Panchatantra and Brihat Kathas. From Brihat Katha only Katha Sarit Saga came. Panchadantras, and we gave the great Tamil epics. We traveled across Asia to the civilization and then to the West, which came back as Aesop tales and a lot of other things. We have been telling great stories. Ramayana and Mahabharata influenced so much of humanity, almost 70% of humanity, not as a religious text, because Ramayana is prevalent in even cultures which has got. There are Christian Ramayanas where all the characters are Christians. There are Muslim Ramayanas. It's a pan-Asian phenomena. Uh, where in Arabic Ramayana is there, where characters pray to Allah. There is Mapla Ramayana in Malayalam. There are Philippines Ramayana, where all the characters are Catholic. So it is not just a religious text. For Hindus, it is a religious text, but it's a cultural text for Asia also. So if they could do at that time, why are we not able to do it? If we stop imitating the West and try to do a poor imitation of their stories, steal their stories and try to tell it in our way. Instead of that, do it rooted, like how Bahubali was done. Do it rooted. Do it. Tell our tales. Tell it in a bigger scale. I think we can take over as far as we can colonize the West, at least in the cultural space. We have so much to do. Whether I will do
Anand,
it, I will be the instrument, or someone else. That's for the destiny to decide. But there is nothing wrong in dreaming and striving. All of us should do that as writers.
I completely agree. I completely agree. And you have been so inspiring to all of us, all of us. And you've given us golden nuggets. All the writers and authors who are there in the audience, I think they will all agree with me. Roshan Radhakrishnan, Anuradha, Rituparna, they will all agree that you've given us nuggets on which we can again, we can write, we can think. Really, thank you so much, Anand. And thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for being with Bistrobus. Thank
Thank
you.
you. I have an announcement to make this 29th, 28th. Bahubali, the concluding book is coming, which is becoming a Netflix series. That book will be coming. So the pre-orders will start on 21st onwards. 7 days pre-order only we are keeping because of the COVID times. So I request anyone who is interested in the Bahubali world. All the three books are out now. The entire story is complete. It's a 1,300. All books put together 1400-page epic. If you But I guarantee you that you will not feel bored even for a
I'm
page.
sure. I'm sure. That's called Queen of Mahishmati, right? That is the name
Yeah,
of the last book,
that is the
Queen
name
of
of it.
Mahishmati.
You know,
I'm sure everybody will take the whole lot together. I already have the first one. I'm going to buy the other two. Definitely. So I'll have
please
the
do.
full series. Thank you so much, Anand. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
And thank you,
Pleasure.
everybody out there in Bistro Bus. Thank you very much and have a very good evening.
Thank you. Very good evening.